Pleasure to see so many, and I hope you'll find the talks interesting and learn something new. And at least I have some news you definitely haven't heard about. So let's just get started. I have 25 slides and 15 minutes or so. So I'd like to start with a flashback, just looking back quickly in history, what has happened. 2002. This was what our product looked like. So we started off with structured content. So Enonic has always been about structured content. So put the information in, easily find it and use it in any kind of channel. So back in 2004, we did headless CMS with these screens running a Cisco Flash client. And it wasn't easy, but it worked. So we've been doing that kind of stuff for ages. And forwarding to 2015, we released Enonic XP, first version, which kind of had some, we think, still groundbreaking approaches, which had like a generic storage, a content API, and quite importantly for developers, a JavaScript app engine. So as the development started back in, 2012 or 11, we already then saw that JavaScript would be kind of the future. At this time, then it was just PHP, Java, .NET that dominated kind of how you built things, right? And we also pioneered, I think, PWA. So 2017, we built this like demo app, runs entirely on XP, and now has thousands of users. So you can just go to officeleague.rocks and create your own league and play foosball, see who's the best. So another interesting use case of the platform, demonstrating the flexibility. Should also know that this is open source. So if you want to look at it, feel free. Using Angular. And then, same time, we built the first version of our headless API, which we call Guillotine, and this was then built with GraphQL. So also very early on doing a dynamic GraphQL API. And this has been kind of evolved ever since. And another piece in the puzzle that was released in just a couple of years ago was React for XP. So React had been around for a couple of years. So people did JavaScript in the front end, right? So you could do, or in the client. So you could do all those fancy interactive things more easily. But we recognized that you would want to do this server side as well, right? You would want to build up your pages server side to serve them faster. And as XP had JavaScript support, we also added it like a framework or package, which Christian will talk about at the end of the day. How can you do React server side just using XP and no third-party frameworks? Okay, just a few things we have done this spring. We kind of toggled everything to headless first. So if you come to Enonic now, you go into the first tutorials and the intro guides, etc. It doesn't mention sites. So sites are only something that come later. And there's a new thing, literally, that you can now put custom content types on the root of your project without having a site as an entry point. So obviously makes it easier to just use Enonic as a database. You have less kind of concepts to learn about. Just add your content types, start creating, and you can set up previews, etc. if you like. Along with that, we also extended Content Studio's pluggability. So this is Guillotine. You install Guillotine, you get a new menu item, and here you can do queries immediately against the project you have selected. So you can start playing. And don't worry, this is role protected, so only kind of selected users will see see the menu item. But it's a very quick way of getting access to your data and playing around with it directly from Content Studio. Also, I think this is at least interesting for anyone new trying out Enonic. We've been spending a lot of time to, let's say, smoothen the developer journey. And one of the things we identified was that people want to install the CLI via npm. So now you can do it, we just made it faster and easier to get started with Enonic, right? And also, this will be our second talk of the day. This spring we released an integration with between Next.js and Enonic XP. So basically using the Guillotine API here on XP and then using Next.js, your front end. So this is a very popular framework these days. And if you want to use Next.js, we have an out-of-the-box approach to do that. So this summer we have a long list of things that are almost ready. And the first thing is XP 7.13. And this has especially one important thing. It's more like a technical release than it is a big feature release. But it now features Java 17 at the core. And so far we've been using Java 11. So that means it is now possible to start using Java 17 features, and we will also start using that more extensively in the upcoming releases. And this means also that when we get to XP8, the transition to XP8 is going to be smaller and smaller and smaller. So it's just going to boil down to, let's say, a minimized need of changes to your app. Other things, it contains a new boot page for the SDK. It's a bit faster in some areas. So you'll see the features when it arrives. Also, another long-awaited release is Explorer 2.0. We've been working on that for a long time. And we're now at just the documentation stage, so wrapping it up. If you don't know what Explorer is, it's basically a search platform. It's an app you can install on XP. And then you get an interface, a back office, and you can configure different search collections and define searches across them. And the big news is now it features a GraphQL API out of the box. It features something called document types. It didn't used to have that, but this is kind of similar to content types. But it's about setting up indexing, and also means you can put multiple different types of data in one collection. And then finally, a simplified UI. Here's just a sneak peek at the front page. So here you can search all kind of data in Explorer. So why do you need it? Well, sometimes you don't just want content. Maybe you want to index some other information and make it searchable, or index your content, maybe combine it with other sets of data. So we can provide a more or less out-of-the-box approach to do this. And you can inject them via an API, the data, or you can write what we call collectors. So that's an app running in XP that will maybe be scheduled, go out, fetch something, put it into Explorer. So it's going to be a really comprehensive product as we go forward and offer more and more features. Also, the Enonic operator. The beta has been out for a while. What is it? Well, we believe the future of, or at least one of the most common ways of hosting our platform will be Kubernetes. And to host things in Kubernetes, those who have tried know it's a few moving parts and decently complex. So we built basically what's called an operator. It's software you put into Kubernetes, and then you can tell it to create XP servers with just a small YAML file. So this means it's going to be very easy to boot, upgrade, and run XP. And you can run it in any kind of major cloud, and technically any Kubernetes cluster, with just throwing in some YAML files and Helm charts, etc. And it should also use best practice setup. So very flexible, very easy to run the software if you want to do that. And then our self-service cloud has been evolving gradually, and one of the things we've been using it so far for trials, so people could sign up and get the trial and test stuff. And we're closing in now. It depends on XP 713 and the operator, but then we will release what we call a free plan. So you can sign up, free account forever, and create up to 3 parallel instances, but you can only run one at the same time. So this is obviously for development and testing, and we think that's a nice thing to give away, so it's easier to play around and test things for free. Also, if you start subscription eventually, you will also keep these free items within the same account. So you can run subscription solutions and free solutions in the same account. So, fall 23, what's coming after summer? So the thing I'm most excited about, and the headline of my article was API first. And what does this mean? It says /API, so I'm just highlighting one feature here. It's basically, if you know XP, you have /admin, you have /site, you have /web app. So those are kind of built-in things in XP that you can easily implement. So you could add a web app.js file, and then you create a web app. But we now introduce /API. So the idea is that you simply provide an API.js controller, which will then immediately be available as an endpoint in XP. And of course, you then just install it via your apps, and you can make any kind of API, of course. And you can secure it using the traditional mechanisms in XP: virtual host, role-based access control, and code. And of course, when you have an API, you can, like you always have been able to, you can access everything in the platform: the scheduler, clustering, storage, the Java, the app engine, etc. Right? So you can then provide your own APIs. And if you don't look forward to writing your own APIs, then maybe this will be the most interesting. So there will be a new version of Guillotine. Actually, it's almost ready already. I had a demo yesterday of it, and it's definitely like conceptually a game changer how you can work with it, because of course the essence of it is that it will provide you an API, headless API for your content, and that's pretty much what you see all the other headless providers do. But we think that is kind of very limited. We see that when you're building front ends, you typically need access to a lot of different data. And how do we kind of provide optimal access to that information and that data without having to access 100 different APIs and do all sorts of tricks in the front end? Well, the new Guillotine can act as a middleware. So what does that mean? Basically, when you have Guillotine and you have your app, let's say I have my app here, I have 3 content types. I have product, person, and something else, right? And then I can install those content types and I can start adding some products. But what if you want to have prices served via the API? What you have to do is quite easier. Actually, in that same app, you can just implement where you add, in this case, a new field to the schema. Oh, I'll add price. And you calculate it or fetch it or whatever you want to do on the server. And you can merge and serve the price together with the rest of the data from the content. One API call, right? And you can do other cool things. You can override fields, so you can customize it. If you want to hide the field, you can remove it. You can add new content types. So like the demo we're using, we're integrating Google Books API into Guillotine, so you can fetch content from or data from any kind of source. So super flexible, and all you need to do is put it into your own app and deploy it. And there in runtime, it's available. So what we're offering here is basically like a, let's call it like a digital experience backend. So anything you need, available from the same endpoint. And of course, you're running code, you can do any kind of security checks, anything you like. So only people with their role, price managers, get the net price data, whatever you like. So super flexible, combined with all the content in XP. And technically, you don't even have to access the content. You can just access your own stuff. So we believe it's a game changer, and this is radically differentiating XP from, let's say, a generic headless system, where the APIs, you cannot manipulate it. And this talk today is focused on React. So I'd like to say one more thing that I think is interesting. It's not immediately available, but we have started work on what we call Enonic UI. So everything you see in our different admin tools will be componentized as React component. And it means you can use that and build your own interfaces. Typically, I guess this will be for administrative purposes and for extending the Enonic backend. So developers don't have to invent their own stuff, and they can make it look and feel very nice and seamless together with the rest of the Enonic backend.